Hello dear students, as you all know we are doing chapter number 4, moving charges and magnetism, and in the last video lecture we studied about Ampere's circuital law. One application of Ampere's circuital law was missed actually, so let us discuss that application. But before going to that application, let me give you a quick revision of Ampere's circuital law. What the Ampere's circuital law is? Ampere's circuital law says that the line integration of magnetic field around a closed loop is equal to mu naught times the current passing through that loop. Okay, what does it mean actually? Suppose a closed loop is like this. Okay, a closed loop is like this. I have made the part which is at the back dotted and which is at the front with dark line. Suppose so many wires are there which passes through this loop, right? From one wire current I1 is going, from one wire the current I2 comes down, from one wire current I1 goes up, I3 let us see. So what is the net current that passing through the loop? The net current passing through the loop is actually, in this case it will be I1 plus I3 because they are in same direction minus I2. Okay, the current which is going from down to up, I1 and I3, they will be added, and I2 since it is coming down, it is subtracted. So from this expression which is written in the bracket, what we are going to have? We are going to have the net current which is going up. Okay, which are going from down of this loop to the above of this loop. And what is that V dot dl? Suppose at this point, this is the direction of tangent, and the direction of tangent will be the direction of dl. What is the direction of magnetic field? Suppose the magnetic field is here. So if this angle is theta, then V vector dot dl vector will be V dl cos theta. For each point on the loop, for each small length of the loop, length element I am taking on the circumference, there will be an angle made between the B and that length element. So I have to take loop in such a way that this angle remains constant so that I can integrate it. Isn't it? If it is changing over the length, then we cannot integrate it. Right? So this is line integration. This is what mu naught I. This is what we have discussed in the last video lecture. Today we are going to do one application which was left, and then after we will move to the next part, and the next part is force on a moving charge which is moving inside a magnetic field. Okay, these are the things we have discussed. Now today we are going to discuss one application was left. That application we are going to do today, and after that we will be moving towards the force part. The application was magnetic field around a straight wire, obviously current carrying wire, straight wire. So suppose this is a wire which is straight, current I is going from down to up in this wire. Now I am taking a loop around this. This loop is like this. Okay, again the same logic. Which is at the front, I have made it dark. Which is at the back, I have made it dotted. If the radius of this loop is A, suppose, then at this point the direction of magnetic field will be somewhere here. Okay, how the direction is being denoted? Thumb in the direction of magnetic field and all the other points towards the direction of the point at which magnetic field is to be calculated. So suppose if I am getting like this, okay, if I am getting like this, the magnetic field is perpendicular inward, right? Magnetic field is perpendicular inward. What is the direction of dl at this point? So dl will be small length element, dl will be in the same direction. And this will happen because of at every point. Like this point, suppose if this is the wire, and a loop is around it, then at this point, loop is like this. So at this point, which is in front of the wire, the direction of length element will be towards this side. Okay, and if we want to know the direction of magnetic field, then thumb towards the current, all these points towards that length element, then thumb is in this direction, right? So basically, as you can see, wire was there. At this point, the direction of length element is towards this side, and the magnetic field is also towards that side. It will happen at each point. Okay, each point on the circumference of the loop. So basically, DL and B are in same direction. Now, by Ampere circuital law, line integration of B vector dot DL vector is equal to mu naught times I. Now line integration of B dl cos 0, which is 1 basically, mu naught I. Since magnetic field is the function of distance and distance of the loop remains constant, B is constant, so it can be taken out of the integration. Integration of dl, it will be 2 pi a is equal to mu naught I. So basically B is equal to what? Mu naught I upon 2 pi a. So this is the value of magnetic field around a wire at a distance a from it. But for this derivation, there is a condition. The wire should be of infinite length. The wire should be of infinite length. What I am trying to say that length of the wire is much greater than A. In comparison to A, the length of the wire is very greater than A. So that the length of the wire is considered as infinity. Okay, and we can do like this. The same formula we have derived in the very first lecture of this chapter. Okay, and in that we were using Biot-Savart law. It was quite lengthy. Okay, we have taken a length element. Because of that length element, we have calculated the magnetic field. Then we have integrated for the complete length of the wire. Then phi 1 and phi 2 we have put 90 degree. It was very lengthy, but by using Ampere circuital law, it becomes very easy. And the good news is, from this year, that derivation is not in syllabus. This derivation is in the syllabus. So basically, this will be asked, not that will. Okay, so you can go for this. Okay, earlier in the board paper, it is given in words by using Biot-Savart law or by using ACL. But this year, this will be in the syllabus, so you have to prepare this derivation, not that. Is it clear? So this, again, we have a clear idea why this Ampere circuital law is important. As you can see, by using Ampere circuital law, the lengthy derivation can be done in few lines only. Okay. Now I am moving ahead. This determination of magnetic field due to a given current carrying wire is done. Now we are moving to the second part of the chapter, and the second part is force on a moving charge. Force on a moving charge in a magnetic field. Force on a moving charge in a magnetic field. Okay. And we are going to study it under a law, and that law is called Lorentz law. What Lorentz law says, that if somewhere, this is the magnetic field, say this is uniform, and a charge is moving in the magnetic field with a velocity v, making an angle theta with the direction of magnetic field. So what Lorentz law says, that the force acting on this charge because of magnetic field which is already present there, and because of its own magnetic field. Since the charge is moving, so basically it will have its own magnetic field, and a magnetic field is already present over there. So because of interaction of these two magnetic fields, this charge experiences a force, and that force is given by, that force is directly proportional to magnitude of the charge. It is proportional to velocity of the charge. It is proportional to the strength of magnetic field, and it is bound that F is proportional to sine theta. Sine of angle made between velocity and the magnetic field. Okay, for this, so many experiments were done. Then after we have reached to this conclusion, I'm not explaining or I'm not discussing about those experiments, but because of those experiments we have concluded to these results. These are standard results, right? Okay. So when let me give you an example. What we do, we take a straight wire I, and we put a charge over here, Q, right? Now what we see, if this Q is at rest, then there is no force acting on the Q. But what we do actually, we give it a velocity in this direction. Okay, suppose we hit the Q like this. What we have given? We have given Q a velocity. Now what we found that this charge doesn't go straight in a straight line. It deviates. Okay, it deviates. So when it deviates, what we observe, that there will be a force acting on the charge. So basically the force will be because of this V, not because of this Q. When V is present, then force is acting. When V is not there, when the charge was at rest, there was no force. Is it clear? So basically, because of this V, the force acts. And what we observe, the more velocity we give, the more deflection it has. So basically the force is proportional to V. Now we replace Q by bigger charges. 2Q, 3Q, 4Q. What we observe, the force is bigger. F is proportional to Q. Now we observe that if we increase this current, then also the deflection is more. So when we increase this current, what happens? At a distance A from it, the magnetic field also increases. Magnetic field due to a straight wire is mu naught I upon 2 pi A. So when we increase this I, then B also increases. So because of that, we reach to the conclusion F is proportional to B. And what about the sine theta? What we observe that if this charge is displaced inside, in this direction, right, in this direction, in which the magnetic field is already there. Suppose this is the current. At this point, the magnetic field is perpendicular inward. I have told you the palm rule. So basically at this point, the magnetic field is inward. If the charge is moved in that direction, for a moment what we observe, that charge does not experience any force. So basically when the charge is moving in the direction, then there is no force. When the charge is moving perpendicular, the deflection is the most. So basically for perpendicular, deflection is the most. For in the direction, when the charge is moving in the direction of magnetic field, there was no force. From there, the sine theta comes into play. Okay. When we combine all of them, what we are going to have? We are going to have F is proportional to QVB sine theta, or F is equal to, say, constant K QVB sine theta. But further we observe that if we take the dimensions of QVB, it is already equal to F. So basically, when we take SI units, then K comes out to be 1. So basically F is equal to what? QVB sine theta. So this is the formula for force. And in vector form, if we want to write, then F vector is equal to Q V vector cross B vector. F is proportional to F vector is equal to Q V vector cross B vector. Let us write like this. So this is the vector form of the expression, and this is the expression. Now from this expression we are going to have 3 cases. three cases we are going to have. Actually two, not three. The first case is when theta is equal to 0 degree or 180 degree. In both the cases, sin theta will be 0, and because of that, force is 0. So what we observe, if the charge is moving in the direction of magnetic field or opposite to the direction of magnetic field, it will not experience any force. The force acting on the charge will be 0. And the second thing, when theta is equal to 90 degree, in that case, or pi by 2. In that case, sin theta will be 1. So in that case, F is equal to QVB, which is maximum force on a charge, which is maximum value of the force acting on the charge. So from here, what we need to understand F is equal to QVB sin theta, F is equal to QV vector cross B vector. When the charge is moving at 0 degree, means in the direction of magnetic field, or at 180 degree, means opposite to the direction of magnetic field, force is 0. When the charge is moving at 90 degree from the magnetic field, then force is acting as QVB, which is the maximum value of the force. Now, what is the direction of force? What is the direction of force? For that, let us understand a rule which is called right-hand rule. Let me remove it first of all. I'll make the diagram again, don't worry. Yes. What is the rule? For the rule, let us discuss. Suppose a charge is going in this direction B, which is making an angle theta with the magnetic field, right? This is the magnetic field, this is the charge which is moving towards that side. Now, how we can calculate the direction of force? One rule is there. I will recommend that you understand this rule, okay? So that, because this rule is general, it can be applied everywhere where the cross product is present. And some rules are there which are kind of shortcuts, okay? So from that rule, those rules cannot be applied everywhere. For different cases, it will be different. But if you understand this one, the cross product rule, it will be same. Wherever the cross product is present, you can understand the direction. What do you have to do? You have to, first of all, you have to keep all your fingers towards the direction of V. Like this, right? And then you have to fold them towards the direction of B. Like this. V and B. V and B. Then the extended thumb, which you are not able to see because it is at the back. Extended thumb is inside the plane of the board. So basically this charge will experience a force which is perpendicular inside. All your fingers towards V, then fold it towards B, then extended thumb, which is actually at the back, that's why you are not able to see, is perpendicular inside. Okay? So this is what the rule is. The other rule is, you can extend your thumbs towards the motion of positive charge. And all these fingers towards the direction of magnetic field. Here it will be like this. This is towards the V, and all these fingers towards the magnetic field. Where the palm faces inward, force will be inward. Let us do some practice. Suppose this is the magnetic field. It is cross, you can understand. the direction of magnetic field is towards, means inside, perpendicular inside the board. If a charge Q moves in this direction V, then what the force it will experience, in which direction the force will experience? First of all, cross product rule. All your fingers towards V, then you have to fold them towards B, magnetic field. How it will be? So just you have to rotate your fingers like this. All your fingers are towards V, then you have to fold your fingers towards B, magnetic field, then extend it from this towards upward. So basically, this charge when it moves, it will have a force towards upward. From the second root, this thumb is towards the direction of motion of positive charge, and all these fingers should be towards the magnetic field. So it will be like this. All these fingers towards the magnetic field, extended thumb is towards the motion of positive charge, palm faces up. So this charge will experience a force perpendicular upward. From here, one analogy is also there, that F vector must be perpendicular to V as well as F vectors must be perpendicular to B also. This is the rule of cross product. It is the rule of cross product. Okay, if A vector cross B vector is equal to C vector, so basically C vector is perpendicular to A as well as C vector is perpendicular to B also. It is the same, right? So now this is what the force, direction of force is to be determined because of when it is moving in a magnetic field. Now we are going to discuss if the charge is moving in through a space where electric field and magnetic field both are present, then what happens? If a charge is moving through a space where electric field and magnetic field both are present, then what will happen? Let us see. If a charge Q is moving through a space where E vector and B vector both are present, then F net force is given by F net vector is equal to, now just see what will happen. Electric field exert its force vector and magnetic field exert its force. Let us write that force at every vector. Now F net will be equal to Fe is given by Q into E vector and FB vector is given by Q V vector cross B vector. Q can be taken common. F net is given by E vector plus V vector cross B vector. This is the value of net force. Okay? Somehow, if Fe vector and Fb vector are equal and opposite, how it will be, I'll explain. But what will happen? Let us see. Equal and opposite. Then Fe is equal to Fb. Fe is given by Q into E. And Fb is equal to Q into V into B. Q and Q will be cancelled out. V is given by E upon B. E upon B. So this is the condition actually. If a charge is moving through a space where electric field and magnetic field both are present and charge is moving undeviated, it simply means that the force due to the both magnetic field and electric field are equal and opposite. And because of that, Fe must be equal to Fb, and because of that, the velocity of the charge must be equal to E upon B. how it is possible, let us understand. Suppose in a space, magnetic field is present in this way. Okay? Magnetic field is present in this way, and electric field is present in this way. Both are perpendicular to each other. Cross represents electric field and this line represents magnetic field. Is it clear? Now, if a charge is moving in such a manner that it moves undeviated, then how it will be moving? Then in what direction the charge should move? In what direction the charge should move? If a charge is moving through this space like this is the velocity of the charge. Direction of the velocity is perpendicular downward. So basically this thumb, because of the magnetic field, thumb is towards the magnetic velocity of the charge. These fingers towards the magnetic field. What is the direction of force? It is perpendicular outward. Perpendicular outward. And electric field is perpendicular inward. So electric field pull the charge towards itself. The force of electric field is towards itself and the force of magnetic field is outward. Both the forces are opposite, and for a particular value of V, this force is equal also. So in that case the charge will move undeviated. Okay? One more example. Let me reverse the things. Suppose in a space, here a positive plate is kept, here a negative plate is kept. You are understanding that what I am trying to say? I am trying to say this. Electric field is towards this direction. This is electric field. Okay? In what direction the magnetic field is? The magnetic field is like this, cross. This is your magnetic field, right? Electric field is downward, magnetic field is inward. Both are perpendicular to each other. Now, the charge is moving through this space and it is moving undeviated. It is moving undeviated. How this is possible? How this is possible? If a charge is moving with a velocity v in this direction, then what will happen? Electric field, suppose the charge is here. Okay. The electric field will pull the charge towards itself. QE will be in this direction. Okay. And where will be the magnetic field force? Velocity is in this direction, magnetic field is perpendicular inward. What is the direction of force? Perpendicular upward. The force due to magnetic field, is towards this direction. It is QV vector cross V vector. If both are equal, then this condition will be satisfied. Okay, so this is how a charge is moving undeviated through a space where electric and magnetic field both are present. Is that clear? Now, the next thing we need to study is the path of the moving charge in a magnetic field, and that we are going to do tomorrow. Tomorrow this section will be over, and then after the last section, force on a current carrying wire will be started. Okay, so this is all for the day. One more information, notes of chapter 3 is updated in the description. One topic is missed actually. In the confusion that in this year that topic is removed, and that topic is heating effect of current. Actually it is in the syllabus, so we are going to discuss once this chapter number 4 is over. I'll make a video on heating effect of current separate. It is of chapter number 3. Chapter number 3, all notes in the respective videos are updated. So basically you need to check the description links are there, links of only theoretical part, not numerical part. Numerical you have to do by yourself. Is it clear? So all the chapter number 3 notes has been given, links given. So basically you have to complete your chapter number 3. This is all for the day. Tomorrow we'll discuss path of a charge which is moving in a magnetic field. Thank you.